Some mornings change your life forever. This is the story of Deshaun Miller, an ordinary fisherman who made an extraordinary discovery. What he pulled from the Cumberland River on September 23, 2023, would make his hands shake uncontrollably and solve a mystery that had haunted a small Tennessee town for 34 years. But before we reveal what was inside that rusty chest, you need to understand why it mattered. Why this discovery would bring a grieving community to tears and expose a truth darker than anyone imagined. Deshaun Miller was a man of routine. 23 years fishing the same spot. Same time every morning. 5:47 a.m. without fail. His wife Maria called him the river keeper. The river was his meditation, his church, his escape from a world that moved too fast. That morning started like any other. Coffee in his thermos. Tackle box checked. Favorite rod in hand. But by 7:15 a.m., Deshaun would be on his knees, trembling, staring at something that shouldn't exist. Third cast. That's when he felt it. Not a fish. Something heavy. Dead weight. Stuck deep in the river bottom. Deshaun pulled. The line held. He adjusted his stance, planted his boots in the mud, and pulled harder. Whatever was down there had been there a long time. 15 minutes of struggle. 15 minutes of working it free. And then, it broke the surface. A military-style metal chest. 2 feet long. 18 inches wide. Covered in rust and decades of river grime. There was a padlock on it, so corroded it crumbled when Deshaun touched it. His hands were shaking as he reached for the lid. Something told him this wasn't treasure. This was something else. Something important. Something terrible. He was right. Meet the Henderson family. Richard Henderson, 45. His wife Patricia, 42. Their son Isaiah, 17. This photo was taken August 12, 1989. Look at their faces. Happy. Hopeful. Completely unaware that in 6 weeks, they would disappear without a trace and become one of the most baffling missing persons cases in American history. Riverside, Tennessee. Population 3,200. The kind of place where you didn't lock your doors. Where everyone knew everyone. Where the biggest excitement was Friday night football. Richard owned Henderson's Auto Repair on Main Street. Patricia was a nurse at Riverside Medical Center. Isaiah was the star quarterback, straight-A student, had scholarship offers from 3 universities. They were the model American family. Until September 28, 1989. That night, none of them came home. Their car was found at 11:47 p.m. by a passing truck driver. 15 miles outside town on Route 52. Engine still running. Doors open. Radio playing. Patricia's purse on the seat with $340 cash inside. Isaiah's football jersey folded in the back. Keys in the ignition. But no Hendersons. They had simply vanished into the night. The investigation was massive. FBI involvement within 24 hours. Over 800 interviews conducted. 2,000 tips called in. Search parties covered 40 square miles. Divers searched the Cumberland River. Cadaver dogs combed the forests. America's Most Wanted featured them. Unsolved Mysteries did a segment. But nothing. No bodies. No witnesses. No clues. For 34 years, the Henderson family remained ghosts. Back to Deshaun, kneeling on that riverbank. When he opened that chest, he found layers of heavy-duty plastic wrap sealed with industrial tape. Inside, documents. Dozens of them. And sealed plastic bags containing personal items. A watch. A wallet with ID. reading glasses, a woman's necklace, and at the bottom, wrapped in its own waterproof container, a cassette tape with one word written in faded marker: truth. Deshawn's hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the tape. He didn't know what he'd found, but every instinct told him it was significant. He pulled out his phone and called 911. "I found something in the river," he told the dispatcher. I think it might be important. I think it might be about the Henderson family." Deputy Lisa Crawford arrived 20 minutes later. She was young, relatively new to Riverside, but she'd heard the stories. Everyone in Riverside knew about the Hendersons. When she saw the contents of that chest, her face went pale. She immediately called for backup. Within an hour, the riverbank was a crime scene. Yellow tape. Evidence markers. Forensics team. The FBI was notified. And that chest was carefully transported to a lab in Nashville. News spread fast in Riverside. By noon, everyone knew. The Fisherman. The chest. The possible connection to the Hendersons. By evening, news vans from Nashville and Memphis had arrived. By the next morning, it was national news again. Breakthrough in 34-year-old cold case. But what exactly had been found? The police weren't saying. Not yet. At the forensics lab, investigators carefully opened each sealed document. What they found was explosive. Personal journals written by Patricia Henderson. Financial records from Richard's business. And letters. Dozens of letters detailing threats, intimidation, and fear. The Henderson family hadn't run away. They hadn't been randomly targeted. They knew something. Something dangerous. Something worth killing for. Patricia's journal entries from September 1989 were chilling. "Richard is scared. He says they're watching us. He found something at the shop, something he wasn't supposed to see. He wants to go to the police, but he's afraid. Isaiah doesn't know. We're trying to protect him. If anything happens to us, this chest contains everything. The truth is here." September 27, 1989. Her last entry. The day before they disappeared. But the real revelation was on that cassette tape. On October 2nd, forensic audio specialists at the FBI lab in Nashville carefully transferred the recording. The tape was in surprisingly good condition, protected by its waterproof container. What they heard made seasoned investigators go silent. It was Richard Henderson's voice. Recorded 5 days before his family vanished. "My name is Richard Henderson. Today is September 23, 1989. If you're hearing this, something has happened to me and my family. 3 weeks ago, a man came to my shop late at night. County Commissioner Douglas Whitmore. He asked me to store some items in my locked storage unit. Said it was confidential county property. I agreed. But last week, I needed something from that unit. I opened one of the boxes by accident. Inside was money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. And documents. Bribes. Kickbacks. Evidence of corruption going back years." Richard's voice continued. "I confronted Whitmore. He threatened me. Said if I told anyone, my family would pay the price. But I can't stay silent. I'm making copies of everything. I'm going to the FBI in Nashville on September 29th. But if something happens before then, this chest contains all the evidence. I'm hiding it where only my brother knows to look. If we disappear, find the chest. Find the truth." October 8, 2023. 15 days after Deshawn Miller pulled that chest from the river. Douglas Whitmore, now 76 years old, retired, living in Florida, was arrested by FBI agents and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, racketeering, and corruption. The evidence from the chest was ironclad. But there was still one question: where were the bodies? Under interrogation, Whitmore finally broke. He led authorities to a remote area 40 miles from Riverside. An abandoned quarry, now overgrown with vegetation. On October 15th, forensic teams began excavation. 3 days later, they found them. Richard, Patricia, and Isaiah Henderson. Finally coming home after 34 years. The funeral was held on November 3, 2023. Over 2,000 people attended. The entire town of Riverside came out. Patricia's sister Sarah, now 75, finally had closure. "We never stopped hoping," she told reporters. "We never stopped believing the truth would come out. Deshaun gave us that gift." Isaiah would have been 51 years old. He never got to go to college, never got to live his dream. But his story, and his family's courage, exposed corruption that had infected an entire county for decades. Douglas Whitmore pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The investigation revealed a corruption network that involved multiple county officials, contractors, and businessmen. 8 others were indicted. Millions of dollars in stolen taxpayer money was recovered. The Henderson family's sacrifice wasn't in vain. As for Deshaun Miller, he returned to his spot on the Cumberland River. But fishing was different now. "I think about them every morning," he told me. Richard, Patricia, Isaiah. They wanted the truth to come out. They prepared for it. They hid that chest hoping someone would find it. I'm just glad it was me. I'm glad I could give them justice. Give their family peace. The river still calls to Deshaun every morning. But now it whispers something different. Not secrets. Gratitude. This case reminds us that truth has a way of surfacing. Sometimes it takes 34 years. Sometimes it takes a rusty chest at the bottom of a river. Sometimes it takes an ordinary person doing ordinary things who stumbles onto something extraordinary. The Henderson family made sure their story wouldn't die with them. They fought back the only way they could. They documented everything, sealed it away, and trusted that someday, somehow, someone would find it. Today, there's a memorial in Riverside Park. 3 bronze figures, a man, a woman, and a teenage boy, standing together, looking toward the river. The plaque reads, "The Henderson Family." Their courage exposed corruption. Their truth brought justice. Never forgotten. 1989 to 2023, and every morning at 5:47 a.m., Deshaun Miller drives past that memorial on his way to the river. He nods. He remembers. And he casts his line into water that no longer holds secrets, but instead reflects the light of truth finally revealed. This has been the River's Secret. The true story of how one fisherman's discovery solved a 34-year-old mystery and proved that justice, no matter how long it takes, will always find a way. Thank you for watching.